Hey everybody, welcome to In the Clubhouse with the Nats Report. I'm your lovely host today, Hayden Raymer, and I'm joined as always by my good friend and show host, co-host. There we go. Words hard.
Jeremy Lapidus.
There we go. We got it down. Uh, Talking about some baseball today. Talking about some Nats baseball today. Uh,
Right?
yeah. No, Jeremy, how have you been this week?
I've been pretty good. I went on a nice little vacation this weekend. Very exciting. Uh, went to Iceland. It's cold there. It's very warm here. Uh, so
Yeah.
excited to be warm again. But
Yeah, no,
it's
it
beautiful
it
there.
has it's been really nice. I fell asleep. I took a mini nap during the Nats game today, and I had a dream that I woke up and it was snowing, and that would have been like the most on-brand thing for like this winter. Uh, but thankfully that's not real. I don't see any snow out there, so we're good to go. Uh, how about we dive into some Nats baseball? Jeremy, the Nats have had a what I would call a pretty successful West Coast road trip. Would you
Oh, it's
agree?
been it's been a great road trip. I mean, you talk about three series against three three series, two against solid teams. You win both of those series against the good teams. You go 2-1 against the Giants, 2-1 against the Dodgers. It is a little bit of a blemish that you go 1-2 against the Oakland A's, but that's that's just gonna happen when you're focusing on the Dodgers, I guess.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, we did our last show right before that Tuesday
I believe
Giants game.
it was after the first
Game, but
Giants game.
before I think we ended like right before first pitch, or right after first pitch, on
Yep.
Tuesday. Uh, did you have any big takeaways from either of those games or that specific series as a whole? Uh, for those of you at home, the Nats won that Tuesday game 5-3, and they lost 1-7. Uh, on that Wednesday game. Josiah Gray ended up going on the IL. Was one of the big stories heading into that Tuesday game. Obviously, we talked about that in our last show. Uh, C.J. Abrams did C.J. Abrams things, hit a home run. Uh, and then the Nats just got kind of rolled on Wednesday. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, and that Wednesday game was just a mess. Like very few positives to take away from that one. They just got their butts thoroughly handed to them.
Yeah,
Um, that 5-3 game, we saw a Doan though. First first start of the MLB season, Jonah Doan might be a Hall of Fame pitcher.
yeah. No, I mean it's whatever he gets called upon. As like that spot starter, he just always delivers, it feels like. It's just when he has, you know, that regular 5 days rest run at the MLB level. Maybe he needs that extra fifth day of rest.
Maybe
Maybe he's on a
he might be a
4 day
guy
rest
that
guy.
you might be a guy you call up like once a month just
Yeah,
cuz.
just
And
cause.
it wasn't like a elite kind of start for him. He only goes 4 innings, 72 pitches, uh, he, 3 hits, 1 run, 2 strikeouts. It's a really good start for him, you know.
Mhm.
And I feel like we kind of get spoiled with him because he does this. Like I said, first start of his MLB season, Jonah Doan. Oh, great pitcher.
Mhm.
And then I don't know what happens after that. It's some kind of mystery. But
I don't know either. But hey, that's okay. We know now we've identified what talent we have. And now we just know now we know when to use it. Is now the next problem. Uh, moving on to that A series. In the first two games, the Nats only scored 4 runs. Uh, the Athletics only scored three, so ended up splitting those first two games, and then they lost 6-7 in like a
that
six
last game
run
was kind of brutal.
comeback. The Nets were
Yeah.
up 6-1, and then the
Hmm.
A's came back and scored six on them in the end of that game. Did you
Now,
have?
admittedly, that last game of the Athletics, I turned it off after the Nats went up 6-1 because I just kind of assumed they could put them away.
Hmm.
My fault. I
Yeah,
won't do that again.
yeah. You got to stay engaged, Jeremy. Come on.
Gotta stay ready.
Hmm.
But no, that game. I mean, just the bullpen. Just whatever happened in that sixth inning was was a mess. you know,
Yeah.
just total collapse there.
Yeah. No, it seems like the Nats are kind of gonna call on Derek Law as that bullpen guy, that fireman type role. Because I mean they kind of put him in that same situation. I'm trying to remember what game it was. It was one of these Dodgers games. I think it was. Was it last night's? It might have been last night's.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
it was.
where he comes on. Yes, because it was Patrick Corbin. He gave up the double to Mookie and then walked Freddie. Uh, I don't know. I The bullpen has both been. It's been a little hit or miss. I don't know what's quite going on with them. Robert Garcia's been really good. Floro's been, he's had his moments, I guess. Uh, I mean, he's got a 1.13 ERA. He's been good. Some of the underlying numbers there, obviously suggest that's not sustainable. Uh, I don't know. What's been the biggest surprise for you in the bullpen so far?
Biggest surprise for me in the bullpen is it's really just the way that they're using their guys. Especially the back end. Now I'm not super surprised that Kyle Finnegan is closer,
Mm-hmm.
but you look at some of the way that Hunter Harvey has started the season, um, pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
And then you know a guy like I'd like to see Tanner Rainey get a couple more opportunities. I know when he came in earlier, he just didn't have the command, and when he doesn't have command, he's awful, right? But he's one of those guys that you kind of feel like needs to get more opportunities in this bullpen.
Yeah, no, I mean that's always the thing with Tommy John, and coming back from Tommy John, uh, is the command is usually like that last thing to come back. Which for a guy like Finnegan who, you know, command was already a little suspect. Uh, when he doesn't have that, and then his fastballs, down to 94 instead of that 96, upper in the 97s like it has been in the past. Uh, Not a recipe for success. Uh,
No,
and so I don't know. Uh, Hopefully that velo comes back. Otherwise, this unfortunately might be kind of like that last year for Rainey, which sucks because I mean, he was an underrated part of that 2019 run. Uh,
he was a huge part of that 2019 run.
like
That
Hudson
bullpen in
and Doolittle
2019.
were like the two like guys, and then Tanner Rainey wasn't like the he was, I guess, the third most reliable guy in that bullpen. Uh,
2019, he and Fernando Rodney, whoever was on that day, was
mhm.
taking that seventh inning. And those two guys, that bullpen was awful.
Yeah.
It was awful. And
Mhm.
those two guys really stepped up. Like, you had your back end, and then you had whichever one of those two was able to get the outs. Um, he was a massive part of that run. So yeah,
Yeah.
big Tanner Rainey fan.
Big Tanner Rainey fan. I mean, he also, when he was healthy, I mean, he, kind of on
He
paper
touched
was the Nats
100.
closer. Like,
Yeah.
uh, so to kind of lose that kind of sucks. But I mean, the Nats, thankfully. have a lot of depth in that bullpen. Just they have a lot of upper pitching depth that's kind of like solid. Zach Britsky's gonna be coming back at some point this summer. Cole Henry probably is a reliever and not a starter. Uh, Ferrer and Mason Thompson. Or I mean, obviously we're not gonna see Thompson this year, but Ferrer should be back at some point this year. Uh, Jacob, Joe Lasorsa's looked good. Uh, and obviously you have Hers as well, DJ Hers. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess trying to think of how to phrase this. Uh, I guess what was your big takeaway from this A series? Because I had a big takeaway, uh, but I don't know what yours was.
My biggest takeaway was the concern on offense, and I know that's kind of just been a theme all season, but when you are putting up 1 run, 2 runs, 3 runs against a team like the A's that doesn't have the greatest pitching, doesn't have the greatest bullpen,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little concerning. And I know they were able to put up 6 in that last game, but I feel like they should have been able to put up more than 1 run in that second game.
Yeah. No, I mean it's against the A's. Yeah, probably should not be doing. Probably should be scoring quite a few runs against that team. That's okay. I agree with you there. Offense and the lineup construction really concern me. We might be able to dive into that. I mean, they're starting to fix that a little bit, uh, but we can talk about that along with this Dodgers series. For me, it was kind of just like the way we're using that bullpen, where it's we're back in the familiar pattern with Davey and his bullpens, where we use Kyle Finnegan and Hunter Harvey a lot. Uh, that third guy and that fourth guy, uh, which so far this season has been Jordan Weems and Derek Law, are gonna use a ton. And then there's just a bunch of days in a row where we just don't see, everybody else. Like Tanner Rainey, he pitched yesterday. But prior to that, like he hadn't pitched in a week. Uh, Matt Barnes got pitched on Sunday and Monday. So did Dylan Floro, but neither of those guys really pitched much in the week prior to that. They had like 4 days off between their last appearance, and it's just I don't know. Like I get it. Like those guys aren't gonna be the reliable guys, but I mean, hey, let's be honest. I don't think the Nats have World Series aspirations this year. Uh, they'll be over the moon if they make the wild card, but I don't think that's in the plans necessarily. Uh, you gotta keep Finnegan and Harvey healthy. You can't wear them down early in the year, because Finnegan and Harvey are already at like 10 innings, which is like a sixth of their season. Uh, and I don't think math. Maybe I'm wrong. Uh, 162. They've played what?
18.
18 games. Uh, yeah, it's a ninth of the season. So we gotta ramp those innings down a little bit. Uh, especially this early in the year. For the how competitive this team is. It's just something that I'm worried about. Something that's kind of a carryover from last year, where you remember Kyle Finnegan was throwing like 4 days in a row. Uh, when they were on that Linsanity run in the middle of the summer. Uh, I don't want to see people get hurt. That's always my biggest concern with the Nats is I don't like seeing players, no matter how terribly they may perform or how much I might dislike them off the field. I never want to see anybody get hurt. Uh, and I like both those guys. I don't want to see them get hurt for sure. Uh, I don't know. Did you have any? Did you have any thoughts on the bullpen management and all that?
Yeah, I
Or
mean that's this is something we've talked about for multiple seasons. I mean, that is Davies' biggest weakness.
mm,
It's uh managing the bullpen, and it's just how he does it. He runs his bullpens how I run my bullpens in like
MLB the
MLB
show?
games.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Where I'll have my starter go 7 innings, you know, then I'll just bring in my last two guys,
Yeah.
right? He runs it the same way, except he's not having his starter go 7 innings, you know? And also, this isn't a video game.
Yeah.
These players need rest. Uh, on paper, it works. That's why I do it in the video game, because that's how it goes.
Yeah.
But these are real arms, real live arms, and they get wear and tear on them. You need to be more careful with it. It's a similar thing. I think as we go deeper into the season, he'll get better at it. He tends to rely more on familiarity, at least in the beginning of the season. We talked about it last show with the lineup. You wanted to talk a little bit about lineup construction and how he's improved on that. He's started to mix it up, and he started to
He started to mix it
hear
up in
me.
what?
Hear me.
Yep.
He started to get those new guys in the right order. He started, and he's just getting more familiar with the guys that they brought in and how it's gonna work together as a team. I expect, the bullpen management to get better as the season goes on. Now, I don't expect it to end, because this is how he manages.
Mhm.
And with a guy like Davey, you have to take the good with the bad, because there's plenty of good. We talked about it. Especially with a bad team, having a guy like Davey is super important to a clubhouse,
Mhm.
I think. Um, he'll get better at it. And he's just gonna do what he does. Maybe in the future we get a bullpen management. Maybe we get like an assistant coach to run the bullpen or something.
Well, I mean, the bench coach should be helping with that a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how it's running.
I don't know how it's running
However it
either.
is,
I'm
it
not in
needs.
there.
However it is, it needs to be adjusted a little bit.
Mhm.
And you can look back to last season. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. I bet you it was similar, where he was running
Oh, it was
the guys
absolutely.
he was running them hard into the ground at the beginning, and then he started to lean off of them a little bit, not entirely, but lean off of them a little bit as he got more comfortable with the other guys. But he has guys that he likes, and he lets it be known because he plays them all the time, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It gives those guys the confidence. It's hey, my manager believes in me. My manager thinks I can do this. It's not necessarily all bad.
But
It's not like doom and gloom.
but again, like you say, it gives them confidence. What does it do for the guys who Davey doesn't lean on? Uh, Last year, Robert Garcia was, statistically, if you're talking about like an F war or like a B war standpoint, was like the best reliever on the Nats team. And
Yeah, it goes both ways. It's the
he's
same thing.
barely been used this year. I don't think I've seen Robert Garcia. He's made 8 pitched in 8 games. When was Robert Garcia's last appearance? He hasn't pitched in Saturday. I don't know if he was in the game tonight. Like I said, he might have pitched after while it was snowing. But I don't. I know. I remember seeing Finnegan and Harvey, and what's his face? Jake Irvin went pretty deep today. Uh,
Yeah.
oh, he did pitch today. Okay, cool. Never mind. You win this time, Davey Martinez. Uh, uh, all right. Yeah, I don't know. Uh, I think that's all I had for the A's. Uh, Dodgers. Mitchell Parker made his MLB debut. Nick Senzel returns to the team. Trey Lipscomb got sent down. Uh, I guess with those two, those were kind of like the big two headlines leading into what would that have been Monday's game. Uh, I guess which one of those kind of do you want to talk about first, Jeremy? Your mic cut out again. We're gonna talk about Nick Senzel. Yo, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I think the bigger takeaway from all of this, from this series in general, was the starting pitching.
Yeah.
Mitchell Parker, Jake Urban especially, and even a little bit of Patrick Corbin on the opposite end of things.
He,
Uh,
well, I mean, he went deep into the game. You know, I think not letting him face Mookie Betts for like a fourth time, like letting him face Mookie Betts for a fourth time, probably not a good idea. Uh, but outside of that, I thought Corbin did a well enough job. You know, 4 innings,
you
six
talk
runs,
about
I'll take that. After the season, after the seasons of Corbin that we've had to deal with, I'll take that.
yeah, but you talk about a guy coming up in a debut, facing off against maybe the best lineup in all of baseball. In the Los Angeles Dodgers, going 5 innings, 2-run baseball, only giving up 4 hits, not walking anybody, 4 strikeouts. It's really impressive. Mitchell Parker really, really impressed me with his debut. Um, Going up against, I honestly, them or the Braves. Those are the two hardest the lineups to go up against as a pitcher. Um, and you debut against this. It's not an easy task, and he handled it wonderfully. Uh, we covered a little bit of Jake Irvin tonight. He pitches a shutout. 6 innings, no hits, only 1 walk and 6 strikeouts. The Nats pitchers,
Give him
and
four
we talked about
hits.
Patrick Corbin already. Uh, he did give up 9 hits, walked 4. But he had 5 strikeouts and 6 1/3. The Nats struck out the starters struck out 15 batters this series. They all went at least 5 innings. It's it's really that is really impressive what the starters were able to do. What might be one of the bigger weaknesses on this team really stepped up to the plate against a real tough opponent.
Like the metaphor in our baseball show. Uh, yeah, no, I mean Parker to do what he did against three former MVP winners and three future Hall of Famers at the top of that lineup uh, was impressive. Uh, like I mean, this isn't the most dominant Dodgers lineup that we've seen. Uh, but that the top five of this is going to be the toughest five. Or top six is going to be the toughest top six lineup that you're going to face in MLB. No question about that. You've got pretty much three MVP level hitters at the top of the order. Uh, and only give up 2 runs is awesome. Uh, yeah, I mean, honestly, the thing that kind of, I mean, outside of the second game, the lineup or parts of the lineup have looked really good. And I think that's the issue with the Nats right now. Uh, is they have it almost feels like there's two separate lineups. There's the top four, which Abrams, Winker. I'm gonna put Luis Garcia in there now. Uh, and then Lane Thomas just because he's pretty much always up in there. Uh, and then there's everybody else. Top four has been really good. I mean, Lane Thomas has struggled so far this year, but then everybody else uh, has been not good. Uh, where it's pretty much all of our offensive production is coming from Abrams and Winker, and then a little bit of help from Gallo and Luis Garcia, who's having a breakout year age 23, even though that you'd think he's 26 by how long he's been in the league. Uh, I don't know. Do you think that's a fair characterization of this lineup?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with Kyber going on the IL, it's not an injury; it's
The
flu.
flu.
I think is what they called
Yeah.
it. Um, it's a little bit tougher, especially since we are still in April. You
I
don't
mean,
want to
Riley
look at
Adams has
these.
been good though.
He's been really good,
He's
and
stepped
you
up.
don't. Yeah, he's done a really good job filling in. But you don't want to overreact too much since it is April. Uh, you don't want to look at these triple slash numbers right now and be like, oh, that's it, they're set.
Yeah, one good series, and the whole narrative has changed.
Right. Uh, you look at a guy like Nick Senzel. He went from a 283 average to a 182 average just today. A whole 100 points.
Well, this is also his third game of the season, so it's a
I know.
little
I'm
bit
I'm using
okay.
him as an example
You
because it's
you
like
chose the most
really
drastic, yeah.
it's the most drastic one. Um, but like it's so early in the season that it's tough to make those. You can start to draw them now, but you don't want to set that in stone. And I think some of those guys at the bottom of the lineup, I still believe that Joey Meneses can get that contact back. I don't think he's a 200 hitter. I don't. Uh, you know, Eddie Rosario, I don't think he's a 150 hitter. These guys that are struggling at the bottom of the order, I think they can turn it around. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be 300 hitters all of a sudden, you know, but I think they can sit around 230, 250,
Mhm.
and just turn it around. It's as of right now, absolutely you're right. There is a very clear top and bottom, but there's like that with almost every team. You just talked about it with the Dodgers. You have your MVP candidates at the top, and then the bottom of the lineup is just kind of struggling right now.
I mean,
Uh,
that's part of the reason why they called up one of their top prospects.
right. So it's not the end of the world, and you're absolutely right about the way that it's split, but they still have time to make a change. I don't like to make these judgments about stuff until at least what's next month? May?
May, yeah.
And at least halfway through May. Uh, you know, about a month from now.
Yeah, I guess I mean it's kind of hard to do this mid-season, and this is part of the reason why I wish they kept, giving him run at first base during spring training. Riley Adams. I mean, he's got of everybody that was in the lineup today, he has the fourth highest OPS. Uh, he didn't get a hit today, but he's hitting 273. I'm trying to pull up the full triple slash here. Riley Adams, heading in today, was hitting 300, 313, 500. For 813 OPS, that dropped down to a 720 OPS, I believe. 740 OPS, 741 OPS today. Uh, but I mean, do we? I guess at what point does he start to get those first base reps? Because I mean, Gallo's going to be a streaky hitter. Uh, Anybody who strikes out, close to 30, 40% of the time is going to be a streaky hitter. Uh, but the Nats could use a more stable presence right now. Unless they happen to call up a really good left-handed hitting outfielder uh, who's super tall and hits nukes. They need another stable bat, and I think like if we're like okay cool, we got Abrams, Winker, and Stone comes back and he's getting some DH at bats. So then you got Winker out in left, and then you got Lane, and then you got Adams and Kyber. Like I mean, you can start to see a lineup kind of pieced together here. Uh, at least one that's competent and enjoyable lineup to watch. Because I think that's been the
Right.
issue, at least for me, where it's I watched the first two at bats of the order, and then I kind of like I tune out a little bit. The game becomes more background noise.
Mhm. And the issue is when you go out and you get like a guy like you go out and you get a guy like Gallo, you know what you're getting,
Yeah,
right?
he's
You
gonna be a
don't you don't
streaky
go
hitter.
out you don't go out and you don't go out and sign Joey Gallo without knowing, hey, he's gonna have his week-long stretch where he's gonna do nothing.
Then he's
You
gonna
know,
strike out in almost every at bat.
right? And you kind of have to live with that. When you go out and you get a guy like Gallo, he kind of just has to eat a spot in the lineup, and there's ways around that. I love Riley Adams. I think what he brings to the Nationals on the offensive side of the ball, especially, is something that's really underutilized. He's not going to get that starting catcher spot because Kyber Ruiz is there. And I mean, maybe we can start to have that conversation if Kyber continues to struggle, but I'm not even close to that right now.
Yeah, I mean
You know?
he's been sick and he has a tiny sample size
Right.
so far this year, and the defense looked better in the limited
Right.
sample
And
that we
that
saw,
that's
and that was
that's
the
the
thing.
biggest thing.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me is his defense looks better, and as long as his defense looks better, I can deal with him struggling on offense a little bit, especially in the beginning of the season. Um, but what Riley Adams brings at the plate, I think talking about moving him to first base is a little tough because of how crowded that position already is. You know, you bring Stone Garrett back, assume he plays first base DH. You keep Joey Gallo, first base DH, outfield. Again, the outfield is already very crowded, so we're not even going to get into that conversation. Um,
Well, I mean, I don't know about you. I think if the Nets happen to call, when Stone Garrett comes back, and when uh, a particular outfielder happens to come up to the major
he's not
leagues,
Voldemort, man. You can say his name.
when James, listen, man, I talk about James Wood a lot. I'm trying to give people a break from listening to me and reading me, talking about James Wood. Uh, I think there's two clear people that get option slash DFA.
Right, and I think Joey Meneses is one of those guys.
And then Eddie
Uh,
Rosario is probably the other.
right, the way he's been playing.
Yeah.
Um, but you're still the it doesn't really fix the logjam that's at that position. Say they make those moves.
Mhm.
Say they bring up Stone Garrett.
Mhm.
Stone Garrett comes back from injury. They bring up James Wood. They
Mhm.
replace Eddie Rosario outfield James Wood. Right. That's one for one swap right there. Stone Garrett adds to that jumble at DH first. You now have him, Joey Gallo, and Riley Adams now. Three people competing for two spots. You know,
Yeah.
uh, it's just a little crowded over there. And again, nothing against Riley Adams, but it's the way that the team is set up. He just happens to be the odd man out in all of these situations.
Mhm. I guess how likely do you think it is that the Nats trade? Because I mean we're having a big trade piece drop on the site uh tomorrow. Or like who's gonna get traded this summer piece. How likely do you think is Riley Adams gonna be somebody that could get traded?
I think it really depends on how much usage he gets.
Mhm.
Because Riley Adams is a valuable piece.
Mhm.
He's not a piece that we can't part with because we have Drew Milas down there in the minors. Um, so he's definitely a guy that if you can get value for, pull the trigger.
Mhm.
But he's not a guy that I would, you know, put a big, loud, glowing sign on saying, "Hey, I want to get rid of him." You
Mhm.
know, because he's a nice piece to have on a team. He's a really good backup catcher with a lot of offensive potential. You can throw him at DH on his days off if you'd like. You need an extra bat in that lineup to just be productive. He could help a lot of very good teams, and I think you could get good value for him. But he's not a guy that I'm trading for pennies on the dollar if I'm not getting the right value. You
Mhm.
know, he's a guy that I'm being very selective with.
Mhm. No, I agree. I don't know. It'll be an interesting trade deadline, just because of one. I mean, it's the Hunter Harvey, Kyle Finnegan are always going to be guys that are going to be talked about. And two, it's who kind of survives the wave, and how long can they stave off the wave of young guys coming up. Uh, I don't know. That's something I'm really interested to watch. I think that's probably the most exciting thing about the Nat season this year is kind of how does this roster look, June 15th, looking in 2 months into the future, kind of how does that roster look?
I know, and it's such an interesting time to follow the Nats because it is such like you're at that fulcrum of change. You know, you're
Mhm.
you're at that moment where it the, it's bubbling over. The volcano's about to explode.
Mhm.
It's you have all these exciting young guys right below the surface scratching at it, and it's I'm curious to see when they get called up because it feels like the way that they're running it is instead of doing it in waves, they're just gonna bring everyone up together. Uh,
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Cruz is, or not Cruz. Wood is at Rochester. Everybody else is at Double A still. Uh, I mean, Cruz hasn't looked particularly amazing at Double A so far. Uh, Brady House hasn't really either. I mean, Brady House has been better than Cruz, but yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Wood is ready.
Yeah,
Everyone knows it.
yeah.
The Nats know it. Everyone around baseball knows it. It's it's just a matter of time, and they can't really keep him down there for too much longer.
Mhm.
You don't want to waste years of a guy. And I know it's like the clock hasn't actually started yet, but it's one of those things where you get a guy, you hold him down there for too long, the clock goes later, you are losing years of him in his prime, you know,
Mhm.
at the major league level. It's just I don't know. I think he should be up already. I think he should have been up opening day.
Yeah. I mean, you and I can both agree on that. Uh, did you have any other Nats thoughts? I mean, it is gonna be World Series 5th year anniversary weekend weekend at Nats Park. Uh, we'll see who all
Do
shows
we
up.
know? Yeah, that was my question. Do we know who's showing?
Uh, we know somebody who hasn't officially been announced to show up. And a particular national who had a long saga with the Nats over the past little bit. I'm trying to pull. Let's see. You got Adam Eaton, Brian Dozier, Javi Guerra, Howie Kendrick, Anibal Sanchez, Kurt Suzuki, and Ryan Zimmerman. Obviously, then Corbin Doolittle, Para, Rainey, Robles are also all going to be there. Bob Henley, he's going to be there. Uh, yeah, that's about it. At least that had been announced. Dozier was on one of the 1067 The Fan shows and said that Strauss might show up, and then, of course, Nat's Twitter went crazy. Uh, as they do. Rightfully so, though. I'd want Strauss there too. Uh, I guess my question for you, Jeremy, is they're playing at home against the Astros. Do they lose all the games?
Probably.
Probably. Well, I mean,
Astros have not been very good
they've not.
to start the season.
Guess who makes their 2024 debut on Friday?
Who?
Justin Verlander.
Oh, against
Yeah,
the Nationals.
against the Nationals.
How exciting!
Astros are last in that division.
I know. I can't believe that.
I kind of can, man. Listen. All I'm gonna say is when analytics get you to the World Series and then you promptly abandon analytics, does not go well.
There. But they had a
Uh,
no-hitter, Hayden.
they had a Hill no hitter. They will face Ronald Blanco and Christian Javier in those other two games. The Nats will have Gore, Williams, and Parker match up against them. Uh, and then they'll have the day off. They're off tomorrow. They're off Monday. Look at them.
And they get the Dodgers at home.
And then they get the Dodgers at home. They just, I mean, hey, knock it out all out early. I mean, we got the hot hand. Uh oh,
Remember to always adult
oh,
responsibly.
Oh?
just a random audio just played. Walker Buehler will be back for that Dodgers homestand. Good to know.
I'm
Good to
glad
know.
everyone's coming back for the Nationals.
Yeah, yeah.
Very exciting.
Everybody wants to pitch against the Nats.
Of course.
That's the date they circled on the calendar. It's like, oh, I want this team to be the one that I come back against, And then C.J. Abrams goes for the cycle against them, and they're like,
What are
you
you
know,
gonna do?
what are you gonna do? It's unfortunate, but it's just it'd be like that sometimes,
It just happens.
It just happens. That's what the kids say now, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Thank you
thank you
everybody
everybody
for
so
listening,
much for
watching, dealing with us. Hopefully, you guys learned something, enjoyed our thoughts, enjoyed whatever things that came out of our mouths today. Uh, I've been your host, Hayden Raymer. I've been joined, as always, by the lovely and handsome.
Jeremy Lapidus.
And we'll see you all sometime next week, breaking down these Astros, and maybe previewing. I don't know. Maybe we'll go back to a week. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right. See y'all. Bye.
Bye.